When's the last time you actually tuned a carburetor?
The last time would have been back in my drag racing days in the late 70s. That is the last.
That's a long freaking time.
That is the last time I truly did any significant amount of work on a carburetor.
So we want to do a little follow-up video here on the 351 Windsor. Just kind of address some of the comments that we saw, and then see if we can do a little bit more here to
actually do some tuning on it.
Yeah, rather than just trying to get it to run. We spent all our time last week just trying to get it to run right.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you know, one of the first comments we started getting is that there's 2 different firing orders for small block Ford.
Right. And yes, we know that.
Yes, we know that. Yes, we questioned that early on when we were trying to get the first Retarding flamethrower distributor to work. But we were like, one, I would have noticed that when I set the valves, when I adjusted the rockers.
The valves going through the firing order.
Right. But it was still something that we did end up actually going back through and double checking.
Yeah.
That's not the issue here. And I assume some of those people commented that before they saw the ending of the video, because towards the end, we had it running pretty good. It was rich. That's another comment that we got. We knew that it was rich. So that's the first thing we're going to do today, actually, is see if we can make some changes here on the carburetor and lean it out a little bit.
And that was the thing last week. We couldn't do anything about it anyway because we didn't have any other jets here to even change that with. So let's start with changing some jets. Now, even in the instructions for this, it talks about 1 jet size for every 2,000 feet of sea level. Because the carburetors are manufactured and calibrated for sea level. Here we are 4,000 plus feet. So we're going to go 2 steps on the jets and see what happens. The other thing we've run into here is our little carburetor has a metering plate in the back instead of replaceable jets. So we did order the kit to change that over to a metering block. And we are, at this moment, still waiting on that to come.
No, it's all just...
There we go.
What do you see?
Well, I was just looking where the float closes at.
One thing that we can comment on here, every time that we've shown running one of these engines on the channel, we've stated this, but I think people still don't really fully comprehend that if you want to watch somebody who's an expert at tuning, you're not on the right channel right now.
We are machinists,
not
machining. Tuners.
Yeah.
The only time we ever see an engine run is when there's a problem with it and we have to go to the customer's place of work or home or whatever and look at the engine that we did the machine work on. And even then we're at a loss because unless it's a problem, a physical problem with the machine work, it's still out of our wheelhouse.
But with YouTube, we're making changes to the way our business operates. And now that's leading us into this where I guess you're probably relearning a lot of this because
I did do some of this
40 years ago.
Yeah, 40 plus years ago.
But it's all new to me.
Does that say 66?
Yes.
Okay, because that's what the literature said it was supposed to say. There you go.
Okay. So I put the 66s back in the kit, and we're gonna go down 2 sizes. Mm-hmm. Just
based on the recommendation from
Holly's instructions. So these are 64s.
These do have a lot nicer gaskets in them than I remember. As I recall, last time I was in a Holley carburetor, these were all cork gaskets. I don't know what that is now. Okay, we've got a 6.5 power valve in there. And I don't think our power valve is the issue.
We're reading the comments. We're not addressing the comments here just to say, no, you're wrong. And, you know, we do read the comments to learn from them, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Just a couple of these here were just pretty obvious things, or obvious to us.
And there were so many of the same comments over and over about some of these things that we're like, hey, we need to address that. Yes, we know about that. No, that's not the issue. Yes, we have checked that.
Another one, people saying maybe the timing pointer is wrong or the outer ring of the balancer slipped.
Right. You checked that when you were assembling the engine.
Yeah, we show in the video, I show checking it when I assembled the engine. And then, not to say it couldn't have slipped after that point, but then later on in the video when we were trying to get things to run again, we took the number one rocker off and checked our cam timing based off the marks on the balancer, which again is not the best way to do it. But they lined up within
reason. I took a spark plug out and stuck a little plastic tie down in there and felt for when the piston was at top center, and it matched with the marks.
We had figured out that it'd be like 17 degrees off. Or
yeah, I think that's what it was.
If we were 1 tooth off on the timing set.
Which is quite a bit. It'd definitely be obvious.
Again, probably not the case.
One other thing we've got here is a somewhat restrictive exhaust. I would like to open the headers up on this, but I also don't want to have the neighbors calling the authorities on us. The last thing we need is some authorities out here.
Yeah. So fed ups came.
Brought us some parts and pieces. Appear to be the right ones. Holly makes a kit that you can put that plate in here and then change your individual jets instead of having changed the metering block. And there's supposed to be a number on this. Is that a 6 or a 9?
It's a 9 if it's right side up. 9 would be a 67.
And I would also like to go 2 sizes smaller on the secondaries. So we're going to have to put a 65 in. Here's the replacement plate that this, with a pair of jets, replaces this metering plate. You can get different metering plates, but it's much easier to dial in what you need if you use this spacer block with jets. Where's our original instructions for that carburetor?
I think this is stupid, but maybe you guys can tell me if I'm stupid. We're debating whether this number here is a 6 or a 9, because according to the instructions for this carb, that should be a 6, but that's upside down the way it's installed. So it's installed this way, and it reads a 9. Put a dot under it.
Yeah,
so you can tell if it's a 6 or a 9. How hard is that? But regardless, if that is a number 6 metering plate, that would be equivalent to 69 jets, and you're putting 67 in to go 2 smaller.
Yeah.
According to the instructions for our elevation, basically. Or it'll still be rich. So we're gonna fire it up and
warm it up.
See what it does?
Yeah, I've kind of messed with the timing there off camera. We're gonna have to make sure our timing's where we think it should be. Go ahead.
$36.
There's something about that. I don't think it's reading right.
I don't think it's reading right either.
That timing light there on 0 reads exactly like my old 1976 Heathkit timing light reads.
Yeah.
Other than this one's a little brighter. But that mark is in exactly the same spot. I love this thing, that 13mm bolt.
Yeah.
I don't think this is advancing until we're up about 2,500 RPM.
We've played with it a little bit here, and then we also put the weaker springs in the distributor.
So we can bring the advance in sooner.
It's still weird because it still says it needs like 30 plus at idle.
So I'm pretty sure there's something about that igniter distributor that you cannot use a timing light with it, or at least a timing light we have, which is very frustrating because once I figure out where this needs to be, how am I ever going to set it again if I can't do it with the timing light?
Yeah. We'll just go 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Oh, and we ditched the idler on our...
Yeah, even with that belt sloppy loose like it is, it still seems to be turning the water pump plenty to keep it cool. Providing the belt stays on. Maybe it won't stay on at 4,000.
Ready?
I'm ready.
$10.5 or $10.6, so it's still rich.
Yeah.
Made the same numbers though. So we did a run or two yesterday. I don't remember how much of it got recorded because sometimes you just got to put the camera down and...
Right, and you just got to put the camera down and do what you got to do.
Yeah.
It appeared by our air-fuel ratio that at idle speed and very light load, you know, maybe just kind of cruising.
Yeah.
Yeah, not 85 mile an hour interstate, but just kind of cruising, it looked like we were pretty close.
But definitely still rich under load.
Yeah, as soon as the secondaries open up, quite rich.
So we're gonna go down 2 sizes
here? Yeah, let's go
here?
down 2 more sizes there. I don't think it's a power valve issue. I think it's the jetting.
Okay.
So we took out the 67s, and you say these are 65s?
I think so.
That's what it says. You're the one that should be screwing that in there, not me.
Okay, so we'll get this sealed back up. See if we can't fire it up again.
Yeah.
That still dropped to like 9 some. We want to see just how different things are with the mufflers off, but we're really trying to be considerate neighbors.
Right.
Well, we went ahead and we have our big industrial mufflers that we're going to use when we actually have this dyno set up permanent.
Yeah, when it's set up permanent, these are the permanent mufflers that it gets. But
they're literally straight through. So for right here, I don't know how much they're...
Yeah, with everything this close, I don't know what it's going to do, but we...
And we were real considerate, and we pointed this one at that neighbor, and we pointed this one at that neighbor.
So I think we're good to go here.
Some poor planning. We'd really like to have the dyno back on the other side of the shop, pointed out the other door where it's not pointed right at the neighbors, but
this got set up here when we was doing the 289 because the wind was blowing that day, and we had to work out of this door.
Yeah.
And we never moved things back. We thought, oh, we'll just do the Windsor real quick here.
Yep.
So we apologize to the neighbors.
That's loud. Yeah, it's really loud. We think we've changed the characteristics of it a lot, just taking those mufflers off. They must restrict it a lot more than we thought it did.
I knew it restricted it, but not like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Started again.
So our last run before we took the mufflers off, we had 188 horsepower at 4,000.
Okay.
This run, we had 225.
Holy smokes.
It changed it by 37.
37 horsepower. I was guessing it might change at 20.
That made a big difference. Okay, so that like 12 range, that's when it's under the highest load, I would say.
Yeah.
Because it's trying to we're full throttle and it's trying to bring it back down to 2,000 RPM to our starting point. And then when it hits 2,000 RPM and I start the test, it starts releasing load on the brake to allow the engine to climb. I'm just trying to, you know, people will laugh at us for having this little chart pulled up, but I'm just trying to get in my mind, where is it at throughout the run? Where do we fall in this? I mean, obviously we're not in boost territory, but you know, if we're dropping down to about, it's right in the 12 range when it's under the most load, or, you know, to start the run. And then when the dyno starts, when it starts releasing the brake and the throttle, you know, the motor starts to climb, RPM starts to climb, we dropped down to maybe 11 at one point there, but we still stayed pretty close to 12.
Yeah, so in reality, we may still be a little.
We may still be slightly rich still.
Yeah.
Should we move this thing back over to the other side of the shop and do some more running tomorrow?
I think that would be a good idea. We got good neighbors and we want to keep them that way.
Yeah, exactly. There were some comments that implied that we don't have good neighbors because of us saying that, but it's the opposite. We want to keep...
We have good neighbors and we want to keep them that way.
We want to be considerate of them. So if our neighbors happen to be watching, we're not...
Thank you for being tolerant.
Yeah, we're not being cranky with you or anything.
Let's give this some thought, see if we want to move over to the other door where we can shoot the noise out to the wide open spaces. And it's looking like a storm's coming, so we probably need to get some doors closed up here anyway.
Probably so. I think we're pretty close on our jets and everything. Yeah. At least as close as it needs to be for us to be confident to send the engine out the door. Because the customer may have the same thing happen where those mufflers are more restrictive than his headers, or not mufflers,
these
manifolds.
May, yeah, when he puts his headers on it, it may change.
Yeah, it may lean it out a little bit more even. We've pretty much determined that timing light is not reading correctly, we think.
We're not going to be able to do anything with the timing light, at least the timing light we've got.
And from the research we've done, it has to do with the fact that the Pertronics is multi-spark, but some people say their timing lights work fine with it. So it's hard to say. So we decided we put the points back in so that we can tell what's going on. Because the stupid freaking timing light won't work with the Pertronics. And it's making us look dumb, so...
It's making us look even dumber than we are.
Yeah.
I'll admit, I don't understand what's going on here with that distributor. But...
something ain't right.
Something's not right. Something either we don't understand or something's not right.
This engine seems to just need more timing.
Yeah, it actually like lots of timing.
Okay, 40 total.
With the vacuum disconnected, but we're going to do the run with vacuum connected. And wide open throttle, the vacuum shouldn't change the timing anyway.
Yeah. Now we're going to do a run with 35. So at 2,000, we're 12 horsepower lower, 10 lower, 8 lower, 5 lower, and by 3,000, we're about the same. Above 3,000, we're like the same.
Okay.
But it killed low end.
Say what?
We're gonna do 45 total.
Yeah. this was supposed to have gone in my lawnmower.
We're back up to 100 horsepower at the start. 115. So we're about 9 more, 7 more. 3250 is 3 less. 3500 is 4 less. 3750 is 8 less, and 4000 is 1 less than the previous run.
Okay, so, but compare it to when we were at 40 degrees, the next to the last run.
About the same, under 3000 RPM, and over 3000 RPM, it's about 5 lower on average until 4000 RPM, and at 4000 RPM, we're always getting 218 or 219.
Maybe that's the limit of the dyno.
Yeah.
We pegged the needle on it.
Yeah.
Between 40 and 45, 45 is better on the low end.
I mean, it's like almost exactly the same under 3000 RPM.
But then over 3000, which is better?
40. But you can even just hear that. When you had it at 40 total and you were revved up to 3000, I don't remember hearing it missing. But when you were just doing it at 45 and I was up there at the other shop, it's missing when you're at 3000 RPM plus. When you're just holding it there steady state. Okay, for the video, the timing light does not work. It's not even consistent to where, it's not even consistently off to be able to check.
It just flashes wherever it wants to flash.
So we've got a mark on the distributor basically. We're gonna do a run, move it a little bit advanced of the mark, do a run, move it a little retarded of the mark and do a run, and
see which one's the best. And I think once we find the best spot, you do a money run, run it up a little higher RPM, see what happens.
So you ready?
So on the mark.
It's almost exactly identical to our run that we had 45 total timing with the points.
Okay. So I probably need to retard it just a little bit first and see what happens.
Yeah. A little bit more down low, like 5 horsepower down low from 2 to 3. And then actually it's about 5 all the way to 4000, and then 4000 it's at 219. So 1 more. There's something weird at 4000, I think. But that was across the board 5 more.
Should I do that a little bit more?
Yeah, maybe a little more retard. I must have hit start before it really was down to 2000 RPM, so I lost the 2000 point. It was about 12 horsepower less at 4000 RPM.
So it definitely doesn't like that.
It doesn't like that. I think it's idling cleaner there.
Yeah.
the rev limiter, or was it?
Probably so, yeah.
237 at 4750 and 301 at 3250.
We know the rev limiter works. What do I think? I think I don't like the Pertronix distributor. I think I really like the Pertronix igniter point conversion kits.
Yeah.
But I don't like this distributor.
Yeah.
And I also am not convinced I like our camshaft we've got.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I wish we'd have went a little more camshaft, but we were trying to do this on a budget, trying to make use of as many old parts as we could. And as it turns out, we end up changing the springs and stuff anyway, so we probably should have went a little hotter camshaft.
But would little hotter camshaft work with
the low compression?
No compression.
Yeah. So there's trade-offs all the way through. I'm pleased with the way it runs for what it is.
Yeah.
He just flat needs to put this in his truck the way it is. Get his truck finished, work all the other bugs out that he's got, and then if it's not enough motor for him, save up his pesos. And
I told him every time he does a burnout, he needs to put $200 in a jar. And hopefully that jar is full before something blows.
Let's go.
Yeah. Confirmed that we're not stupid. It's just that you can't use that timing light on that distributor.
That was making us look stupid and making us pull our hair out.
So now we know for the next time, and guess we'll go from there.
And I guess in the comments out there, somebody tell us what kind of timing light you use with this, because I've asked a couple of my customers that have been in here since the time we've been messing with this, and they were surprised that the light would not work with it.
Yeah. But you read online and half say it does and half say it doesn't.
Yeah.
So maybe there's more to it. I don't know. But so we got bored, I guess.
Is that what you call that?
Yeah. Yesterday, I think we finished up, doing as much tuning as we can do here without him just putting it in his truck. And he should be able to put that carb on, put it in his truck, and
it should run.
It should run. And he should be able to make small tweaks to it. And
I think we got the big tweaks done. He can do the small tweaks to get the last little bit out of it.
Last little bit out of it. But like I said, we got bored, so we decided to put our EFI, throttle body EFI deal on here and see what it'll do with the EFI.
Well, even though I'm an old school guy, I think those fuel injection units are just about the neatest thing that ever came along.
The bee's knees.
Bee's knees, there you go.
Yeah.
That's even before me.
Yeah. It's funny though, because like you set it up and we put the, you program in that it's 300, however many cubic inch at this point, being 60 over, and mild cam, set a target idle speed.
Yeah.
And we hit the key and
it started and
starts up and starts learning.
It didn't run too bad right off the bat there. You start it and it kept running. Yeah. And it kind of chugged along a little bit, and I think it was starting to learn what it was all about, and all of a sudden it runs.
So we just thought, let's do some runs with the Phytech and
just see what the difference is.
Just for fun. Should we fire it up?
Fire it up and let's see what happens.
Starts better than the carb,
which
is probably just a testament to how not good at tuning we are.
But still, hot engine sitting there, carburetor, they always kind of boil the fuel, flood over a little bit, sometimes hard to start, hot engine.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to bother this.
Well, and I think where these are supposed to shine is for a do-it-yourself guy who doesn't have tuning knowledge.
Right.
You're supposed to be able to throw this thing on and start the car up and go drive, and it's supposed to be self-tuning. Okay, so let's fire it up. We may or may not have done a run with the camera off, so we're gonna pretend like we're just as surprised.
This is our first run and be just as surprised as we can be.
Starts up nice.
Yeah. Our first run.
Our first run. Made less.
No.
It made less than our first run that we did off camera.
Didn't really do.
But it still made more than yesterday. Actually, that was very comparable to yesterday.
Okay. So what was that little hiccup it had?
It's because I can't control this throttle.
Okay.
It's either on or off.
Okay.
I can't feather into it with this cable we have.
Okay.
So this is, again, playing devil's advocate for why that EFI is so nice when it works, because we fought it on our 2 engines that we've built and ran it that are definitely more radical than this. We've fought it. Well, yeah. I'll admit that it has not been as simple as just putting it on and it just magically works. But this one, we just put it on and did 2 runs. The AFR is like right
where it should be.
Where it should be, compared to us having to tune the carburetor, which they're gonna crap on me for being a dumb kid that doesn't know how to tune a carburetor, but
right. It's just the idea of having to do it.
Yeah, I'm just commenting that we put this on, we let it run long enough to warm up, basically just a little, 1,500 RPM with a little bit of load to warm up, and we did 2 runs there, and both of them are slightly better than what we did after a week's worth of messing with the carburetor. Yeah. It's interesting. It's just take it for what you will. But comparing yesterday's numbers, our last run we did yesterday, or our last, we had 107 compared to 105 yesterday, 120, 119, 134 to 135, 154 to 152, 171 to 167, 187 to 186, 202 to 200, 215 to 211, and 225 to 218. So there was one point there. It was pretty neck and neck for a little bit, but towards the top end, it started to shift. So
I just think that's something is just basically out of the box. It did as well for us as the carburetor did after we worked on it.
Yeah.
For several days there.
When's the last time you actually tuned a carburetor? Because I'll admit, I have never tuned a carburetor before this.
The last time would have been back in my drag racing days in the late 70s. That is the last.
That's a long freaking time.
That is the last time I truly did any significant amount of work on a carburetor. Short of, my tractor taking the carburetor off and cleaning it, putting a kit in it, and putting it back together. But as far as truly tuning something, I haven't done any of that since the late 70s.
Yeah. I mean, people have been watching our channel for the last 5 years should at this point understand that we never see the engines run that we do.
No. Having this dyno here for us, even though it's an antique, is a whole new experience for us.
Yeah. So, should we do another run?
You need to do a run. If you're only going to do one more run, you need to do the run up to 5,500.
Okay.
Like we did yesterday, unless you want to do another 2 to 4.
Let's do another 2 to 4. And then because if we go to 5,500, it's going to it's going to hit the rev limiter again.
Oh, on the
Protronics.
Yeah.
We could set the rev limiter to 6 on the Protronics.
Yeah, we could go ahead and set it up a little bit higher.
Okay. So we set the rev limiter and the Protronics igniter deal to 5,900. Let's do a run to 4 first, and then we'll do a run to 55, and then we'll then we'll call it good before we
blow
screw it up. So our overspeed here is set to 6,000, so the dyno will also cut ignition if we hit 6,000. I set in the EFI, I set the rev limiter to 6,000. So let's start it up and do our 2 to 4 run, and then we'll do a 2 to 5,500 just for fun, and call it quits.
Call it quits. Done.
Ready?
I'm ready.
So that one improved even more.
Well, and that makes sense. The more we run this, the more that unit is going to learn the engine.
Down low, it was still about the same, but 3,250, it was 2 more. 3,500, it was 3 more. 3,750, it was 4 more. And 4,000, it was 5 more. We're close enough that it's like questionably just repeatability and weather conditions and fuel, just everything about it. But kind of missed there
at the end. So was that up against the rev limiter, or was that something with the engine?
It's hard to say. So our horsepower peaked 261 horsepower at 4,750, which is significantly higher than yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday was 237 at 4,750, but it may have started missing at that. I don't know when it started coughing yesterday, but it started dropping at 5. So our peak is right in that 4,700 range, which it was yesterday too, just significantly lower. Peak torque is still about 307 at 3,700. So I think we need to quit dicking around.
Okay, we're done.
Okay. And I was one of our viewers and I don't know, what do you call Dave? Colleague?
Yeah, he's a colleague.
For how many years have you known him?
Oh my gosh. Still before we moved out here, I've known him 30 plus years.
Well, I think I got
on the phone.
I think I got a compliment because he said that there's the makings of a great machinist because of my terminology of dicking around with everything. So that was pretty funny. But I think we're done here. So for those people that had their panties in a bunch about the numbers.
Yeah.
And I guess I should comment, I still didn't do the full calibration procedure, but I did at least the part of hanging the weights on. You basically hang weights on the load cell, and if your weights, if it should be reading 300 pounds at that point, and it reads 300, you know that it's calibrated pretty much, roughly. And it was within reason. It wasn't way off. Like I said, I still didn't go through the entire procedure, the calibration procedure, but I think these numbers are pretty realistic.
Yeah. And anybody that is giving us a hard time because of low numbers, we would much rather be conservative on our numbers than blow smoke
Yeah.
and tell people that we have higher numbers than we do.
Yeah. But even using the whatever calculation it does, again, I don't know what correction calculation it uses, but it says SAE corrected data for, 29 inches HG, 77 degrees Fahrenheit dry air. With that, we calculated 320 horsepower.
Okay.
So does that make people happier?
It makes me happy because when we started this whole process, I had in my mind that I really hoped this motor would make 300 horsepower.
Yeah. Just to reiterate, it's basically a stock 351
It's a
Windsor.
stock smog motor.
Yeah.
It's not even a good 351 Windsor. It's a smog motor.
So for what it is, I think he'll be happy. I think he needs to get it in his truck, get his truck running. At least then he can be driving his project while he's working on some of the other stuff maybe.
Yeah.
And then
Kind of keep him motivated.
Yeah, because that's part of why we don't do any work on ours is because you can't drive it, so you don't do anything anyway. So anyway, now like and subscribe and all that stuff. See you in the next one.
See you later.